that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. So lovely earth can stay lovely still.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey and the famous Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. World traveler, expert on all kinds of things, and philanthropist. Well, it's true. Maybe not money, but you give a lot of people a lot of things. Anyway, every day I get up and I do my homework, which is starting at 4 o'clock and working until about 9. Just looking through the news, putting together stuff, references to articles that I find really interesting on energy and climate change, and I packaged together 10, 15 of these, each a synopsis of 50 words or so with a link to the original article, and I put them on my blog, geoharvey.com, Geoharvey.
Remember that.
Remember that. Named after an ancestor of mine, Geo. Anyway, I put them up on my blog, and then Tom and I go through the 20 or so most interesting ones. Well, we are starting on Thursday, May 18th, which is a week ago today being the 25th of May. And we're starting with an article in Grist, and we have a photograph of this.
Yeah, we do. Well, that's a nice picture of
it's
the
It's
Everglades.
a nice picture of the Everglades.
And the headline here is the first GOP member of Congress to say impeachment after Trump's latest scandal is a climate hawk.
Yep.
Now listen to that one again. You know, this is a GOP guy using the I word.
Yes, and he's not the only one, by the way. And this,
well, he's just the first.
Yeah, and he is. Things have deteriorated enormously since this happened, with all kinds of stuff coming down this week about Russia, about Trump apparently firing Conyer because it made him feel better about the Russia investigation, which is obstruction of justice. Anyway, I'm going to read that title again. The first GOP member of Congress to say impeachment after Trump's latest scandal is a climate hawk, Representative Carlos Curbelo's district in low-lying South Florida, which is where that picture is.
Yeah, this is Palm Beach.
Flat land. This is Everglades National Park.
Well, the picture is, but
yeah.
I mean, his district incorporates
Palm Beach and also Key West.
3 inches
Yeah.
of ocean rise, and Palm Beach is underwater.
Yeah. He bucked his party to become the one of the most vocal proponents for climate action in Congress. And what's happening here is that this area of South Florida is basically, his district is probably going to disappear. And I'm talking about the whole district,
very well.
including, you know, they're going to have to make up their mind what they're doing about Palm Beach. And I mean, right now, Miami is spending $500 million just raising its roads.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Palm Beach is in worse shape than Miami. The South Palm Beach, where Mar Lago is located, is in deep doo-doo.
Deep doo-doo.
I mean, they're on very low land.
Well, you know, there's one of the things that's happening now in Florida at an increasing rate is formation of sinkholes.
Yeah, I've been reading about that.
Did you read about the sinkhole at Mar Lago?
No, I didn't.
A sinkhole appeared in the road right in front of the Mar Lago.
I hate it when that happens.
Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, I hate it when that happens. When it happens in front of Elliott Street Apartments, we'll talk about it on the show. Yeah, okay. So is there more about this one, Tom?
Well, just that he's in a very precarious district as far as global warming and ocean rise and stuff like that is concerned.
Throwing these microphones around today. Yeah, he is in a precarious district. There's no question about it. Should we move on?
Interesting picture there. I'm going to pull it back up again.
Oh, okay.
This, of course, is the Everglades. And I thought those black spots were shadows of clouds, but they're not. They're some kind of swamps. If you notice that highway going right across the middle there,
Right.
there's a bridge in the middle of it.
Yes,
So that's water
you
underneath
can actually see it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't noticed that. It had kind of hit me that there was something there, but I hadn't focused on it to
Well, pretty
see what
much
it was.
all of South Florida in the center is Everglades.
Yeah.
So the settlement is on the shores.
Yes.
And it's most vulnerable.
It's
to
very
ocean
vulnerable,
rising.
and this is not the only place that's vulnerable. I mean,
Hey, even New York City's vulnerable.
Yeah.
Philadelphia's vulnerable.
I have read-
Washington, D.C. is vulnerable.
yeah. Well, try New Orleans.
That's gone.
Yeah, I've read that
Sell
everything.
your real estate
Yep.
there now.
Everything outside the dikes at New Orleans for 25 miles around, they're saying is going to have to be evacuated in the next couple of decades.
Yeah.
So we're facing trillions of dollars of losses to climate change. But of course, since climate change
But it's a
doesn't-
myth.
Yeah, it's a myth. It doesn't exist. It was created by the Chinese. Yep. Okay, our next item is from BBC.
Paris climate deal is a lifeline for the world's poorest countries.
Yeah, this myth is a lifeline. Among the thousands of delegates meeting in Bonn to develop the rule book for the Paris deal, the Climate Vulnerable Forum, representing 48 countries, said the deal was crucial to their survival. In a swipe at President Donald Trump's oft-used phrase, they said, "No country would be great again without swift action."
The takeaway here is that this is right from the article.
Yep.
Keeping to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels is quite simply a matter of survival.
Survival, yeah. And, it's one of the things that's depressing about this. As a person who's most of my life I've identified with conservatives and Republicans. And my father was kind of a war hero, not a big, he wasn't Audie Murphy, but he was sort of a war hero. He had a Bronze Star and had 13 battle stars.
Well, that's impressive.
It's the highest number of battle stars anybody in the Pacific had.
Well, he wasn't sitting on the beach. He was
No, he was
he
not.
was an activist.
In fact, he was one of the first three U.S. Military personnel to land on Corregidor.
Okay.
It happened.
First three.
First three. Three people landed the day before the invasion.
Okay.
And he was one
He
of
was
them.
one of them.
And they were just scouting for places that needed to be silenced. But as a person who grew up, with a father who was like that, who was at Pearl Harbor, who was engaged in combat duty when the war ended, it just shocked me to learn that the bodies of armed forces personnel, I should say, point out, not American, these were Japanese, are simply washing out to sea at the Marshalls, where the Americans invaded and took the
buried
islands.
bodies are getting.
The buried bodies are getting washed out to
Washed
sea. Well, I
out
got
to
news
sea.
for you. There's no way of stopping that. The Marshall Islands are
They may not be there. At
they
the
may
end of
not
the
be there,
century.
and we lost a couple thousand men liberating the Marshall Islands. And now we've got an administration that's saying we're not concerned about that.
Yeah. Well, they're dead already.
Huh?
They're dead already.
Yeah, they're dead already, and by the time things are really terrible, Donald Trump will be dead too because he'll be too old. At least that, I think, is their rationale. He and a few other people.
One more sentence of note from this article is, quote, if we don't achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement, there are irreversible damages and consequences.
Yeah, such
See
as
that word again, consequences.
Consequences, yes. Yep, and it's a. These are countries that are saying we're just not going to exist unless you guys start getting your act together. Well, I got news for you. We're going to be in trouble. We may exist, but we're going to be in trouble.
The times will change.
Times have changed. Well, this study that I did on flood insurance, which went
Absolutely.
from 1978 to 2014, you would have expected it to increase by a factor of 6.
I would have said 3.
Well, inflation is 3.5, but we've had increases in the size of the population, which meant that the base of homes that we had increased a lot, but also the cost of housing relative to the size of the population went up. So with those three things, you would expect it to go up by a factor of 6. at the most. But it went up by a factor of 42. And
There's
why?
no logical reason for that.
Oh, no. It's not climate change. Climate change isn't happening. No. It can't be that. Yeah. Well, what about the increases, which are similar increases in the raw counts of tornadoes?
You know, there's an irony, particularly in South Florida, about this.
Yeah.
Because much of the land, we got oceanside mansions.
Yeah. That can't be
Beautiful,
insured.
and they can't get insurance for them.
So they don't have any value because they can't. In order for anybody to buy one of these things, he'd have to self-insure it.
Yeah.
Which means that he can't get it with a conventional mortgage at all. So he's going to have to pay cash.
There are ways, I guess. You could put up a escrow or something.
You put up collateral in some other part of the country.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, this is
ironic that it's affecting the highest element.
Yeah, but it's also affecting everybody else. But this is what's happening with the Trump administration, is that
it hasn't even begun.
I just read that some poll that was done in the last few days indicated that his deepest support, the group that supported him most ardently, his support in that group has declined by 35%.
I'm not at all surprised.
So, I mean, he's taking people's finances are being negatively affected, and these are people who voted for him, and we're all for him.
Yeah.
Okay, should we go on?
I think we should.
We have something coming up here from Common Dreams.
And this is also about Trump.
Still May 18th.
Trump wants to cut the Energy Department's renewables budget big time.
Big time. The Trump administration is weighing huge cuts to the budget. Of course,
This came out this week.
Trump administration's budget actually came out after this, but huge cuts to the Department of Energy's renewable energy and energy efficiency program. It's those two programs within the department. It has proposed to slash it by 70%. That is 70, from $2.073 billion in 2017 to $636 million in 2018. That's according to a draft 2018 budget proposal. Yeah, by the news and information company Axios. This is really appalling when you consider that the money that's put into these programs has a huge payback to the American taxpayer. In some of the energy efficiency programs and things like that, taxpayers are benefiting to the tune of $10 for every dollar that's put in. So who is benefiting from these cuts? Taxpayers? No. The taxpayers are being completely shafted by them. Mm-hmm. The people who are benefiting from them are high-level people
who don't have to pay taxes.
Who don't have, people who don't care, people who will do such things as put $895 million into making sure that it gets the Congress that it wants, which is why the Congress was bought in the last election.
Absolutely.
And that was Freedom Partners.
Do you remember the Hunt brothers?
Oh, yeah, do I?
Remember their father, H.L. Hunt?
Yes.
Hunt's tomato sauce?
Yes.
He was on record as saying that we should forgive income tax for everybody making over $1 million as an example to the rest of us.
I got investigated by some part of the U.S. government when I was in my early 20s. And my phone was tapped for 7 months.
Wow.
And I knew it was tapped because the phone
Subversive, huh?
Yeah, the phone company that we had at the time had ancient equipment, and you could actually hear the recording equipment turning on when the phone was answered. You'd hear the phone, pick it up, it would say hello, and you'd hear click, click. And after about 7 months, I knew that this was going on. And it was going on at a couple of my friends' houses, too. They sent a couple of people into where I was working and said, do you know anything about this guy named Hunt? and it happens that Larry Hunt's nephew, who had been caught running guns in Central America, lived across the street from me at one time.
Oh, no kidding. Wow. Wow.
They had other reasons to investigate me, although it was...
Subversive.
Yeah, it was because I was designing a board game, and they couldn't quite figure that out.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. There's a takeaway here that is how would you say it? It's very encouraging.
Yeah.
The plan is unlikely to get congressional approval.
Yeah, it's
So
unlikely.
he's just floating something out there to see.
Oh,
to see
there was a
what-
really cute one about this today.
Uh-huh.
There was $2 trillion of savings in this budget that was claimed, and then if you read on, you discover that they weren't removed; they were just accounted for a different way.
Oh.
$2 trillion. This budget
Well,
is
a trillion
being.
here, a trillion there. Pretty soon you're up to some big money,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. Thank you, Everett Dirksen.
Well, the reason why this plan isn't going to get congressional approval should be pretty obvious.
Yeah,
Everybody, Republicans and Democrats,
hates it.
is getting hurt.
Yes.
You know, there's
Everybody's
constituents
getting
who are
hurt except two guys in Wichita. What can I say? Yeah, what can you say? Okay.
It's less attractive to invest in renewables, thanks in part to Trump's order to gut his predecessor's clean power plan.
Well, I got news for you.
ain't
There
gonna
won't
happen.
be news for you, actually. It ain't going to happen. We are up to Friday, May 19th, and we have an article here from Clean Technica. This is a cool article.
This is a very good one, yes. This
Yeah.
is very interesting.
Yep.
Lego Group reaches 100% renewable energy target 3 years ahead of schedule.
they had a goal that they had for getting to 100% renewable that they announced in 2014. They were going to do it by 2020. They've done it, and but there's something really cool in the course of this, and that is part of what they did was to take a 25% share in an offshore wind project in Liverpool Bay.
Yeah.
This 258 megawatt Burbo Bank extension. Okay, and
Yeah.
the extension, and this was the first of two articles that dealt with Burbo Bank in Clean Technica. The other one was not one that was included in this week's show list, but I happened to read it, so I know about it. That particular article talks about the actual wind turbines. These are the biggest wind turbines ever put up. They are 8 megawatt wind turbines.
Yeah, that's the state of the art right
750 feet tall. Raptors can fly under these things and not even notice because they're so tall. And the nacelle on one of these things weighs, the generator weighs like 1,600
now.
tons.
The cell is about the size of a bus.
The nacelle is like the size of a small house.
Is it really? It's bigger than a bus, huh?
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're absolutely gigantic. The at the base of the tower, they are, as I recall, 7.5 meters across. So that's about 24 feet roughly. These things are big.
Yeah.
They're very, very big.
Yeah.
And one of them, actually, the prototype that they put up on land in Denmark, ran over one 24-hour period at 100% output for the entire day.
That's encouraging.
So it was like 192
And
megawatts
pretty
or
good steady wind
megawatt
that
hours.
day.
Yeah, they had a
Must have been
good
in
steady
March.
wind. Might have been. Okay.
Interesting thing here. Lego's putting panels up on everything they own.
Yeah.
They really are.
Yeah.
They're way ahead of the game here. But this article says, and I find it hard to believe, 20,000 solar panels are set to be installed on the roof of the Lego factory in, I won't even try to explain, pronounce
China?
it, in China.
Yeah.
That's a lot of panels.
Yeah, but that's a big building. There's
It must be.
1,200 people employed in the building.
Well, the article says it will produce almost 6 gigawatts of electricity in a year.
Yeah, and gigawatts,
It must be
gigawatt hours. Yeah, I hate it when a
Gigawatts.
person and the author of this particular article is a person I have a lot of respect for, and I can't remember which one it is, but he writes for Clean Technica. He knows what he's writing about. He knows the difference between a watt hour and a watt, but he like a lot.
Proofreader screwed it up.
Yeah, it was the proofreader changed it, no doubt. Well, the proofreader was probably Zachary Shahan. and-
There's an interesting thing in this article, if you want to look it up.
Yeah.
To celebrate the achievement and in an attempt to further raise awareness of the importance of renewable energy, The Lego Group also built a 30-foot tall Lego brick wind turbine.
Yes. You can
Guinness
find
World
pictures of it.
Record made up of 150,000 Lego bricks.
Took a long time to put it
That's
together.
neat. It's a neat looking
It
thing.
is.
There's a picture of a bunch of kids underneath it. and all
Yep.
that.
By the way, you know, one of the things that I've been trying for months to figure out is how to explain to a friend who really doesn't understand the difference between a kilowatt and a kilowatt hour,
Yeah.
what the difference is. And I finally,
There's two different kinds of kilowatt hours.
how's that?
The battery kind and the kind you pay for in your
Oh,
electric
yes,
bill.
of course. But just from the electric bill
Yeah.
point of view, the kilowatt hour, you know the difference between the number of men that you would, or people you would have building a building, for example,
All right.
and the number of man hours it would take to build that building.
Good analogy.
So if you have
Absolutely.
100 men working on a building, you can say, well, it employs 100 men or 100 people, because, you know, half the really good workers in this country are women.
Yeah.
But if you say, I've got 100 people working on this building and it's going to take 100,000 kilowatt hours, man hours, that means each of those workers on average is going to have to put in 1,000 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, if you've got, if it's going to be 100 people and it's going to be 1 million man hours, then it's not going to be 6 months getting this job done. It's going to be 5 years.
Yeah.
So that's why you have that difference: man and man hour, kilowatt hour.
That's a good analogy.
Okay, our next item comes from that by the way was from Science Digest. Our next item, still May 19th, is from Malaysian Digest. They cram all these things together and it's hard to see them.
Malaysian Digest?
Malaysian
What
Digest.
about Science Alert?
Oh, Science Alert. Okay, our next item is from Science
an
Alert,
image
and we've
coming
got
up,
an
too.
image coming up. There it is. Oh, this is depressing. Okay.
Antarctica is turning green as climate change pushes it back in geological time.
I posted.
This isn't good.
No, I posted this on my blog, and I got an email from a woman in New Mexico who said, "Are you sure that's Antarctica and not Australia you're talking about?" No, my
That's
dear,
Antarctica.
that is Antarctica. That is Antarctica, which, you know, anybody in his right mind would think of as being completely covered with ice except for a few outcroppings
Well, in
of
the
rock.
background, you can see the ice.
Yeah, in the background. And you can also see in the background that there are places in the background that are bare, just like what's here.
Yep,
And that green is moss growing.
Yep. It's too soon for it to turn into soil and grass and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But apparently this moss is growing very rapidly.
Yeah. Researchers in Antarctica have discovered rapidly growing banks of mosses on the ice continent's northern peninsula, providing striking evidence of climate change in the coldest and most remote parts of the planet. Because of the warming of the last 50 years, they found 2 species of moss growing at an accelerated pace. And what you said about soil is important. These moss will die, they'll decompose, as they get old, and when that happens,
They will create soil.
they will create soil, and it's only a matter of time before you start getting seeds of plants growing in there, and we'll have, grasses or whatever
Well, the
growing in
takeaway
it.
here is if greenhouse gas emissions continue unchecked, perhaps the peninsula will someday become forested again.
Maybe.
And Antarctica was forested.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you can imagine a picture of Antarctica, it's always shown in the same aspect.
Yeah.
And up in the upper left, heading up towards South America, there's this northern peninsula.
Yeah.
Now, it's arbitrary because everything relative to the South Pole is north.
Yes. Right.
But in this particular map, and it's the one you always see of Antarctica, it's the upper left corner, there's this peninsula sticking up into the...
Reaching in the direction of
that's
South
where this is
America.
happening.
And that's where this is happening, yeah. Okay, our next item is from MalaysianDigest.com, which I can read now.
Now we can talk about it, yep. India canceling huge coal power station because it wants to focus on renewable energy.
Wow, a planned coal-fired 4,000 megawatt ultra mega power project plant in India has been scrapped because the government wants to focus on green energy. Gujarati state officials had planned it, but the government decided the state was already sufficiently supplied with energy, and focusing on renewables was a better long-term strategy.
Well, this was going to be big. It
Yep.
would have been the state of Gujarat's second such project, which they call an ultra mega power
Yeah, this
project.
is almost 8 times as big as Vermont Yankee was when it was new.
Well, India is aiming to become a solar power leader with 1 terawatt.
A terawatt.
A million.
Is that what
That's
Trump
a
is
million
objecting to?
watts, huh?
Is a terawatt the thing that Donald Trump is objecting to?
They're looking to get this terawatt installed by 2030. So they're pushing.
Yep.
And we've talked about India. India's, as
Yep.
I've said several times, skipping the 20th century.
Well, they're pulling ahead of the United States, as is China, and the reason is because we've got a political party in the United States that's trying to salvage our heritage in buggy whips, manual typewriters, adding machines, slide rules, and coal.
By the way, I read this is interesting. I read it in one of the articles that we were going to be talking about, though. West Virginia is a very powerful coal state,
Yes.
and the number of people who are actively employed in coal as a percent, what number would you think?
0.5%.
Well, it's 3%.
Oh, is it? Okay.
3%. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, if you look at the power that the coal companies have, you'd think it was 40.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's interesting is the coal companies have maintained a hold on the state, but the coal unions have been wrecked because the coal companies.
There's nobody left to join the union.
Well, the thing is that when they started this mountaintop removal mining, they were hiring non-coal mining union personnel to do that. The people
can believe that,
people
yeah.
that they were hiring were either involved in other unions or were not unionized. And
Yeah.
the mountaintop removal mining, which is really destructive. I mean,
Oh,
really
it's terribly
destructive.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
The rolling hills.
And when you look in the valleys, that's where you really see it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I read it. It's probably the same article. There's 11 rivers in West Virginia right now that have been disrupted.
Yep.
They're not continuous anymore because of mountaintop removal. They just blocked the river.
Oh my gosh, it's worse than dams. Okay, we are up to Saturday, May 20th, and a bit behind schedule for this show, I'm afraid. We've got a. That's a Dutch offshore wind farm, and this comes from Think Progress.
Offshore Wind won a German power auction without needing any subsidies.
Okay. The price of offshore wind power has been dropping so quickly that it threatens to upend the electricity industry around the world. Choosing free, zero pollution power over costly, dirty power isn't a tough choice for utilities or most countries.
May
I
say
guess.
duh?
Yeah.
This interesting article came from this article. Energy produced by wind is directly proportional to the wind speed cubed.
Yes.
Okay, and as an example, it says a site where the wind speed averages 16 miles per hour delivers 50% more power than one where it averages 14 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You don't think about that.
You don't think about that.
The more wind you get,
Right.
by far the more power output
Yeah.
you get.
So if you have a wind speed of 8 miles an hour and you drive that at one place and at 16, which is twice as fast at another, and they have exactly the same equipment, one of those places will have the amount at 8, and the other will not have twice as much, which
It would
would
be
be
8
straight. It would be 8 cubed. So it would be 64, or it would be 8 times as much.
Wow.
So there you go. Just doubling the speed, 8 times as much power. Okay, we should move on because
Yeah,
we're
this one's
behind. International Business Times UK has this.
The Doomsday Vault in the Arctic
Yeah.
fails to escape climate change and gets flooded.
The Global Seed Vault, which is built under a deep mountain in Arctic Svalbard, to secure millions of packets of the world's most precious seeds from all natural and man-made calamities, has been flooded by melting permafrost. And the thing that struck me is this is May. This is not September. It's not summer. It's May.
This is the spring.
The seeds are safe for the time being, but scientists are alarmed. No one envisioned that this would happen. Well, no one
When they
had
built this thing, it was supposed to be like everything proof.
everything proof. Well, it ain't climate change proof.
A little
Okay.
geography here.
Yeah?
Svalbard is also known as Spitsbergen.
Yes.
You may remember that number. It's a Norwegian I can't even say the word. Archipelago in the Arctic Ocean. It's about midway between continental Norway and the North Pole.
Yep.
And it is the northernmost permanent settlement in the world.
Yeah, and a lot of the people who live there are Russian.
Yes.
There's
Yeah,
a
big
Russian
Russian.
military thing, I
I
think.
think it's mining.
Mining, yes,
Yeah.
that's right. Okay. We should move on. Our next item is from CNN.
Let's get a picture out of there and get you in there.
Get me up here, okay.
President's fiscal 2018 budget would slash EPA spending by 30%.
President Donald Trump's fiscal 2018 budget request would slash EPA spending by almost a third, according to a copy of the proposal obtained by CNN. The budget blueprint, which the White House plans to submit to Congress next week, would cut, and that is
That's happened.
yeah, it has happened, would cut the EPA's total budget by more than 30% and its operational budget by 35% from current levels.
Well, the good news is it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's almost universal opposition.
yeah,
In
almost.
Congress.
I read somebody saying that their analysis of Congress showed that somewhere between 50 and 100 people in Congress, and this is both the Senate and the House, so it's 535 people, somewhere between 50 and 100 of them are actual Trump supporters.
Okay.
And what that means is that if he gets the Republicans mad at him, he's going to lose.
Dead.
He's dead in the
not gonna
water.
get anything going.
No, he's not. And honestly, after this week, I think he's going to be impeached soon. Soon, because the stuff that's happening, I mean, we're talking about potentially treasonous stuff, maybe. And it's not just him. Jeff Sessions is being investigated because he did not put down contacts with Russian governmental personnel when he applied for his security check. I mean,
By comparison, Nixon started to look like the angel Gabriel.
I think, yeah, exactly. Of course, Nixon, unlike Trump, was probably what I would call a real conservative. Trump and these people,
Trump's not, no.
he's not a real conservative.
He's not anything, really.
Well, he's
He's just an
a
opportunist.
real Trumpist. Okay, we are up to Sunday, May 21st, and an item from the Guardian, and we have here
Got another picture.
a picture
That's
of
a
the
nice picture.
yeah, Penacomoith. Would you guess that that's spelled Penacomoith? Not Camoith, Camoith. Penacomoith.
Oh, yes, it's Welsh.
Welsh.
And you know how to pronounce Welsh.
Yeah.
Sort of.
One of my favorite Welsh sentences is Adich ishragor or gigmoch derchog ma. It means, would you like some more of this excellent pork?
I was
Another
going
one.
to ask you if you wanted a tongue.
Another one is Pui Adihunu, which is, it means who is that man? And the thing that I love about it is the way it's spelled. Pui is P-W-Y, Adi is Y-D-Y, and Hunu is H-W-N-N-W. Who knew? Okay, this is from The Guardian.
Charging ahead. That's a pun.
Yes.
Welsh battery scheme may aid growth of green energy.
The Upper Avon Valley near Swansea is already home to the biggest wind farm in England and Wales. But in July, work will begin on one of the UK's largest battery storage schemes, co-locating the plant with the wind farm reduced needs for power lines, so it was about £5 million cheaper than building it on a standalone site.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're saving money because of the infrastructure's there already.
Yeah, they can just put the batteries right there.
And the batteries aren't for the wind.
They're for the grid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Although they'll you can the wind is on the grid, so you can charge them from the wind turbines.
Interesting sideline from this article. This month, British Gas, which is another utility company,
It sounds like a comic team.
began recruiting households to take part in a $25 million trial of a local energy market that will see the company putting batteries, solar panels, and smart storage heaters in 100 homes.
Yeah.
Does that ring any bells?
Yeah, it kind of sounds
Green
like
Mountain Power.
they've been looking at Mary Powell and
Yeah.
seeing what she's been up to
Interesting.
at Green Mountain Power. Okay.
Well, let's move into the Gulf of Maine right
Okay, this is from the Press Herald, which is a Maine newspaper.
now. We don't have a picture, do we?
No, we don't.
Gulf of Maine will become too warm for many key fish.
This is,
Scary?
what can I say? A study by scientists at the NOAA Northeast Fisheries Science Center at Woods Hole, Massachusetts, predicts the warming of the Gulf of Maine will cause a dramatic contraction of suitably cool habitat for a range of key commercial fish species there. The species negatively affected will include cod, haddock, redfish, plaice, and pollock.
Well, the
Pollock.
good news is the lobsters will thrive.
Yeah, the lobsters will thrive there, but they won't thrive in Cape Cod or off Rhode Island.
Well, that's
and so
another
forth.
story. But
That's
yeah.
another story. I mean, they're just moving north. But
Interesting thing here, this article has some nice animated maps
Yep.
shows the habitat for many species declining.
yes,
You know, they've done their homework here.
they've done their homework.
If you want to see this, look up in Press Herald.
Yep.
You know, George's link.
What you do is go to geoharvey.com. On the calendar, click on the 21st of May, and then you can scroll down just a short distance to find this article.
And when you get the article, you click on a fish,
Click on a fish.
and the map will appear.
Yep.
The animated map.
Yeah. Okay, we are up to May 22nd.
There's a quick takeaway here.
Oh,
Just
okay, go
just
ahead.
say it. Since 2004, all coastal Maine has warmed faster than any place else on the planet, except for an area northeast of Japan, raising concern about the long-term stability of its traditional fisheries.
Yes.
So it's pretty scary.
Okay, the next item comes, and this is May 22nd, comes from a publication,
Yeah, we got
and
a
I'm
picture
not sure if this is called News Hub or New Shub.
Wait a second.
Swiss voters.
I was thinking about Valley News.
Oh, you're right. I keep doing that, don't I?
There you
Okay,
go.
Valley News, and
A
we're
nice
still on the
picture.
21st. It's a nice picture of a little bitty river.
What's that so little bitty?
It's called the
called the
Sugar
Sugar
River.
River.
Yes. Not very far from
Company
here.
restores hydropower plant on the Sugar River in Claremont, New Hampshire.
Sugar River Power, a small power producer, has restored a hydro dam in Claremont, New Hampshire. The company bought the dam in January. When the twin turbines in the hydroelectric operate at full capacity, they're capable of generating 1.35 megawatts of power, enough to power 1,300 homes, one of the owners said. And I'm unclear, but it seems to me that 1.35 megawatts would not be enough for 1,300 homes. Maybe those turbines are 1.35 megawatts each, and there's two of them.
I didn't do the analysis. I don't
Okay.
know.
Anyway, that picture is a picture of the river. No dam is being built for this. The dam was already there.
Well, there's dams all over this river.
Yeah.
This is what made Claremont great. There
Yep.
was a couple of hundred water-powered mills there in the
Yep.
1800s.
Yep.
And most of the dams are still there.
Yeah.
Some
And
of them have been developed.
some of them
and some
have
of
not.
them haven't, yeah.
Yep. Okay, now we're up to New Shub.
Well, one takeaway about this,
Okay.
if you're very interested, go to this article. Some very interesting descriptions of the plant and how it works.
Yes.
Really detailed.
Yes.
This guy is in love with hydro,
Yes.
you know, and he knows what he's doing.
Yep.
So it was an interesting article.
Now can we go to New Shub?
Yes, we can.
This is May 22nd.
News Hub.
News Hub.
Swiss voters back renewable energy and vote to close nuclear stations.
Swiss voters have backed the government's plan to provide billions of dollars in subsidies for renewable energy, ban new nuclear plants, and help bail out struggling utilities in a binding referendum. Provisional final figures showed support at 58.2% under the Swiss system of direct democracy, which gives the voters final say on majority policy on major policy
very
issues.
clever.
Yeah, well, I'm not so sure, because it means that, it means that certain things would be much too easy to do. And I'm thinking about Carrie Nation and her hatchet, running around bashing up saloons and turning, having prohibition. Sometimes people are right, sometimes people are not right.
Yeah, I think the whole concept, though, attracts me. The people do have something to say.
Yeah, there was. Well, we don't have time to go into it. Otherwise, I'd tell you a story. Go ahead. Let's go to the BBC.
Now we got a picture here,
We do.
and I'll bring it up.
This is the fastest growing
This is a
renewable
nice
energy
picture.
source. Yeah,
This
it
is a
is.
really nice picture.
Yeah, you like dawn and dusk pictures, as I recall.
You have any idea where that picture is?
Not precisely, no.
Well, we'll talk about the article.
Yeah.
Scottish Power lands a U.S. wind farm deal.
Scottish Power has won the right to build 2 offshore wind farms in the U.S., which it says could eventually power 400,000 homes. The 2 sites combined are more than double the size of the energy giant's operations in the UK. One farm off the coast of Massachusetts is expected to be completed by 2022, and the other off North Carolina in 2025.
There's an explanation here to why we're so slow in developing the enormous potential off the Atlantic coast.
Yeah.
But it says the huge amount of land in the U.S., inland U.S., has made colossal wind farms possible onshore.
Yes.
Okay, the cost differential between onshore and offshore was so large that a lot of people never thought America would be interested.
Well,
But that's changed.
The cost differential has changed
Yeah.
as the cost of offshore wind has dropped down to the point where in some places it's actually very competitive with combined cycle natural
I
gas,
think
which
we
is
talked about it here.
our
There's
cheapest.
there's enough potential off the east coast of the United States to power the entire country.
Yep. Okay, we have to move on, Tom.
Tuesday, May 23rd. We're
yeah.
getting toward the end.
Well,
We
not
got
not
17 minutes to go.
to get 7 items through. Okay, Union of Concerned Scientists.
Congress versus Trump. Are the president's anti-science budget priorities headed for another defeat?
The president is expected to release his full fiscal year 2018 budget this week without any surprises. It will likely track the earlier skinny budget pretty closely, which means it's going nowhere in Congress. And that is exactly what I heard when it came out. Nobody wants it.
Nobody wants it.
Okay.
This is a good article, but it's long.
It's long.
If you want to get into something in depth, it'll take you about 3 days to read it.
I just put up the picture for the next
Yes, you
article,
did.
which is
Well, that's
a
okay.
short article.
DTE, which is Detroit Edison,
Yeah?
buys 6 gigawatt bonanza.
DTT.
That's a lot of energy.
Yeah, DTE Energy plans to build an additional 6 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity by 2050 in Michigan, on top of the 1 gigawatt it has built since 2009. The company also plans to invest in grid modernization as part of its plans to cut carbon dioxide emissions 80% by 2050. DTE's chairman said the utilities transformation is already underway, and by the way, more recently they outlined plans to shut down all their coal plants.
Yeah.
So coal is not making it. Sorry, Donald.
Interesting picture.
Yeah.
It looks like corn, but I don't think it is.
What do you think it is?
Sorghum.
Oh, that could be. Yeah. That could be, in fact.
I had a little sorghum plant growing in my parking lot.
Really?
Right out through a crack.
Oh my gosh.
And it's seeded.
Oh my
I left it
gosh.
there. Yeah.
Really. Our next item is from the Calcutta Herald.
India-China climate hope.
India's and China's pledged actions to curb their greenhouse gas emissions are likely to overcompensate by 2030 the impacts of U.S. Donald Trump's policies that appear to set to flatten America's emissions, according to European researchers at the Climate Action Tracker. The United States is falling behind India and China. People, pay attention.
They're going to make up for what we're.
That's what it says, and they're very proud of that. And the Chinese are going to make hay, and they're going to go all over the world and tell people what good people they are because they are doing their work, and the United States is just being lazy and greedy. And that's
Greedy is the word.
And that's what they're going to say, and they're already
People are
saying
going
it.
to start listening.
People are already listening. Those 42 countries that we were talking about earlier, they're all listening.
Sure.
Don't think they aren't. This
Sure they are.
this administration is a foreign policy disaster. Okay,
Well, this next article is kind of scary. Too.
from Clean Technica. Yeah.
Climate change to reduce global yields of staple crops 23% by 2050. What do they mean by staple crops? You're gonna tell
Well,
us.
I am. Global production of the 4 most important staple crops in the world, maize or corn, wheat, rice, and soybeans, will be reduced by about 23% by the 2050s as a result of worsening anthropogenic climate change, according to new research published by the Journal of Economics of Disasters and Climate Change. And what that means is we are going to have to figure out some other way of feeding ourselves.
The
And
worst case scenario here is mass starvation.
well, it is, but there are other ways of feeding ourselves. And,
Yeah,
and
eat crickets.
yeah, well, eat crickets is a good idea, actually, according
It
to you.
is, really.
And mealworms. They want us to eat mealworms
Yeah.
too, because they're really
Take a
good.
lot of doing to get me to eat a mealworm.
I don't know. I've
I don't
eaten.
know how hungry I was, I guess.
I've eaten crickets, although I ate them baked into brownies, and they were ground up into flour before they were baked in. So you just thought you were eating a rather unsweet brownie.
They are a delicacy in Thailand.
They're great in Thailand, from everything I've ever heard.
I couldn't make myself eat one.
Okay, our next item coming up is actually the one that I think is probably the most important of the week, and this is Wednesday, May 24th, and it comes from Utility Dive, but this has been played up a lot.
This is an important article.
It is
Very
indeed
important article.
very important.
Tucson Electric signed a solar plus storage power purchasing agreement for less than 4.5 cents a kilowatt hour. That's staggering.
It is. Tucson Electric Power signed a power purchase agreement for a system with 100 megawatts of PVs and 30 megawatts, 120 megawatts hours of storage. Exact prices are confidential, but the release pegged the PPA for the solar production of the project at below 3 cents per kilowatt hour. Both solar and storage are to be developed by an affiliate of NextEra Energy. Now, there's some really interesting things about this. There's a bunch of really interesting things. First of all, they're providing power at 4.5 cents per kilowatt hour, where, according to Lazard, the cheapest you can expect to get power on a power purchase agreement from combined cycle natural gas is 4.8 cents.
Cheapest right now.
Cheapest fossil fuel we've got. So this is Tucson Electric getting solar plus storage at below the price of gas, best price for fossil fuels. Another one is NextEra happened to buy out a local project called Chariot from Ranger, which is the group in Maine.
Okay.
And that project is the 60 or 65 megawatt solar project that is going up in Hinsdale.
Yep.
So, we're starting to see the same company that just signed this agreement with Tucson Electric doing a big project locally.
Yeah. And it is a big project.
It'll be the biggest solar farm in New England.
Probably, yeah.
And, it set me to thinking. It's 400 and some odd acres. What would happen if you had 400 and some odd acres planted in a conventional corn crop? You'd have a desert. It would be a green desert because it would have corn, but that would be the only species in it.
Yeah.
Because you don't have rodents, you don't have, the squirrels don't grow in that corn, you don't have mice in the corn, not until the corn is actually producing ears of corn, and then of course it's all cut down.
You can't grow anything else.
You can't grow anything else. The ground is fertilized by chemicals.
Yep.
If it's conventional corn, there's about a 90% chance that it's going to have Roundup or something like that sprayed on the fields, which is known to be a carcinogen to the state of California and the European Union. Mm-hmm. It's going to have fungicides sprayed all over it. It's going to have insecticides sprayed all over it. There are both poisons. In other words, you're going to have a field of 400 and some odd acres that's just covered with poison if you're growing conventional corn. On the other hand, if you plant this with solar panels, what is under the solar panels is vegetation of whatever type is grown there.
Yeah.
And if it
And it
is,
certainly can be done.
If it's done the way they do it in the UK, it would be very likely have sheep grazing under it, and the grasses that grow under these solar panels are just as productive as they are in full sunshine, and they're traditional grasses that are used for grazing sheep.
Yeah.
So
Or cattle.
or cattle, but you wouldn't. I don't think you'd want to graze cattle under solar panels. Maybe I'm wrong. But you could do other things.
You have to stick them higher than the backs of the cows.
You'd have to put them higher, yeah. And another thing, of course, is that cows every once in a while decide they're going to lean on something. So they have to be strong enough to withstand being leaned on by a cow.
You can't do it with goats because they'll climb all over.
They'll climb all over the panels. No, you don't want goats. Anyway, what this means is the price that we had reported already that the price of solar power is pushing hard on the price of wind power, and they are the two cheapest forms of electric power we've got. But now we're seeing that solar plus storage is cheaper than natural gas. And that, of course, means that wind plus storage is cheaper than natural gas, and wind plus solar plus storage would probably be cheaper than either of those two combinations.
Well, they're saying that this is 4.5 cents a kilowatt hour for solar plus storage. The peakers in Arizona right now are producing power for close to 20 cents a kilowatt hour.
Yeah, and Green Mountain Power.
Big differential.
Green Mountain Power has purchased power during peak demand times at 60 cents per kilowatt hour, which it was then selling to customers for 16 cents. So it was 6-0, and they were taking a 44-cent loss, selling it for 1.6. And this is a big deal that we are moving into an era where solar plus storage or wind plus storage or a combination of all can be on the grid in many places in the United States cheaper than any source of fossil fuels.
Yep.
So what does it say about the future of fracked gas?
Sell your stock.
We are not
Well, frack gas is going to run out anyhow.
Yeah, we are not professional advisors on what you should buy. Our next item is from Clean Technica, unless you've got more on that.
No, this one's good.
Okay.
Solar-friendly Florida utility hammers Trump on coal policy.
Now, this is interesting. FPL, the nation's third largest electric utility, is the third largest.
That's Florida Power and Light.
Yep. It boasts a typical household bill 25% below the national average and is closing coal plants to keep its rates going down. In a filing to the Florida Public Service Commission to close its St. Johns River Power Park coal plant, the company detailed exactly why coal is not coming back.
It's just too damn expensive.
It's too expensive.
And they ran the numbers, and they're saving millions of dollars by closing that plant.
Yeah, and which means that they're going to lower the power bills because they're a regulated utility.
Yeah, they have to. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
Well, Florida Power and Light, for what it's worth, already operates more solar than any other utility in Florida.
Which is not known for its solar, except
It's
for
not known for a lot of solar. They should have a lot more solar.
the
than
Sunshine
they have. 'Cause
State.
They got a lot of sun. Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
They got 335 megawatts. That includes 6 solar power plants. That's just for Florida Power and Light.
335 megawatts,
Yeah.
which means that they're
About
somewhere around
the size
6 or
of Yankee.
7 times the size of that plant that's going up in Hinsdale, New Hampshire.
Yeah, something like that. Right. Well, they got, 5 or 6 solar projects
Yeah,
in Florida.
yeah.
And
Okay.
they're moving forward with plans to add nearly 2,100 megawatts of new solar.
That's impressive.
That's impressive.
Yes. Okay, and our last item of
Last one,
the
we got a
week.
picture here.
Here we have a picture. This is a screenshot, and I don't have much information on what that shot came from. But this is from the Daily KOS, KOS.
Sea level is rising 3 times as fast since 1990 as figured before. Meanwhile, feds censor climate information.
Yep, a study published by the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, says the sea level is rising 3 times as fast as it was before 1990. Trillions of dollars are at risk. Well, I got news for you. It's not just trillions of dollars, it's many trillions of dollars. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is censoring references to climate change, and a sinkhole appeared across the street in the road from Mar Lago.
Yes.
And a neighbor of mine heard that and said, it's beckoning Trump, saying, come down here with us.
Was the takeaway here, and this is what's going on really. The U.S. Geological Service issued a press release on May 19th.
Yep.
And it's called Next Decade's Frequency of Coastal Flooding. I can't even talk. Next decade's frequency of coastal flooding will double globally. In the draft copy, these words appeared, I quote, global climate change drives sea level rise, increasing the frequency of coastal flooding. But they were nowhere to be found in a final release.
Quoth the raven, nevermore. You know, really, I mean,
It's
who are
crime.
these people thinking they're kidding?
Well, that's what's going on. They're thinking they're kidding. This is also from the article. These folks seem to believe that if they purge climate change data from government documents, climate change itself will vanish.
You know what? What this reminds me of is that old principle that was established many years ago in the Supreme Court of the United States, where the justice said, you know, you have freedom of speech, but you don't have freedom to stand up in a crowded theater and yell fire.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what we have here is a slightly different situation.
It's kind of flipped backwards.
Yeah, the curtains, you know, there was a show on and the curtains caught fire. And the owner of the theater, knowing that he's going to have to refund the tickets if everybody leaves and hoping that they're going to keep this under control, says, don't worry, folks, it's all part of the show. You know, really, what do you do with a person like that? What do you do with people who lie in order to keep their profits high while other people are losing their incomes, losing their property, and dying? Well, I think that's crimes against humanity. And I think that the people who are doing it should be shipped to Brussels and tried.
Yeah.
And put in jail, prison, if that's the thing that needs to be done, and spend their lives there if that's what is determined. This is a crime against humanity, and I want to point out, according to the World Health Organization, the death rate among people in this world for pollution from outdoor air pollution, not indoor air pollution, which is about the same. This is the particulates and so forth, but it also includes climate change, is about 3.5 million people a year. And that's another person approximately every 10 seconds, which is, if you look at the German concentration camps during the period leading up to and including the Second World War, that rate of 1 every 10 seconds is about 2.5 times as fast as the people were dying in the concentration camps. And who's taking the hit on this?
In a different perspective to understand.
This is crazy.
Otherwise, it's just
We're letting this happen. We are. I mean, the figure that I've come up, said before was according to the California, the American Lung Association in California, which studied specifically Vermont and looked at 47% of our fossil fuel use. They said that the health effects of using those fossil fuels, 47% of them that are used for transportation, is $330 million a year to Vermonters for health effects, mostly hidden in our medical insurance and taxes. Mm-hmm. But that's $480 per person per year. And if you extrapolate that out,
500 just.
Well, you extrapolate it out because it's 47%. You could say it's $1,000 per person per year for health effects of fossil fuels in Vermont. And when you think
think of it that way.
When you think of a family of 5, that means that they are losing $5,000 a year because everybody's burning oil at home, driving a car, and so forth. And on that note, we have to leave.
Well, we're about done.
Out of time. Have a great week, everybody. Don't let it get you down.